Normally, when you create a variable within a subroutine, it only retains its value while the subroutine is running. The next time you run the subroutine, every variable's value resets to 0 for numbers, a 0-length string for strings, and so on. However, there are two ways you can create variables that hold their values. They are by defining static variables and by defining constants. As an example, let's look at the code I have in this workbook. When you create a variable using a dim statement, that variable's value resets to its default value, which again is 0 for numbers, every time the subroutine is called. So for example, let's say that I'm using the current total in the total delivery subroutine. If I press F5, Excel adds 20, which is the delivery charge, to the value in the active cell, which is 382, and the value is 402. The second dialog box that appeared I'll use in a moment, so don't worry about that for now. If I run the subroutine again by pressing F5, I still get 402 because Excel forgot about the previous value that it had. It didn't add them or anything, and it counts the number of deliveries. And again, I'll show you how that logic works into the subroutine in a moment. So what if you want a variable to remember its value? In other words, to accumulate values as long as the workbook is open. To do that, you can create what's called a static variable. Instead of using the dim keyword, you use the static keyword. All static means is that it will retain its value until the workbook is closed. And the second message box that you saw earlier was the delivery count. Every time the subroutine runs, it increments the all deliveries variable by 1. However, because the variable reset to its 0 value, its default value, every time the subroutine closed, it didn't remember any previous deliveries and kept showing up 1, 1, 1, and so on. But now, let's see what happens now that I've defined the variable as a static variable. If I press F5, I get an order total of 402 and the number of deliveries as 1. Now let's see what happens when I do it again. The order total is still 402, but the number of deliveries is 2. And that is why static variables are so useful. If I were to close the workbook and reopen it, then the all deliveries variable would reset back to 0. But as long as the workbook's open, you can keep counting or keep accumulating or dividing or whatever operation you want for as long as you want. You can't declare a static variable in the declaration section. You must do it within a subroutine. In other words, you can't make a static global variable. You have to work around it by creating a subroutine that is called from within other subroutines. That's what this command means. It is simply the name of the subroutine that you're calling. I'll go into more detail on how you do that in a later movie. Now, you might have noticed that I used another command within the total delivery subroutine, and that is that I declared a constant, which is the delivery charge, and I assigned it the value of 20. That means that anywhere within the subroutine that a delivery charge is used, that value will always be 20. If you want Excel to be able to use that value, that constant value, in all of its subroutines, then you need to copy it up to the declaration section. Or in this case, you would cut it and place it here. The problem is that you now have defined or declared CUR currency delivery charge twice. That means you need to comment out the first dimension statement. That way you won't have any conflict when you try to run your code later and have it try to use two versions of the same variable. It just won't work. You'll get an error and your code just won't run. Now I can run total delivery. And once again, I get the delivery constant and the number of deliveries is 1. If I run it again with my static variable, total is 402 and the number of deliveries is 2. I do, however, have a third subroutine here I'd like to show you, and that is special delivery. Let's say the customers can order rush delivery, and instead of $20, you charge $37. You can redefine the constant within a subroutine and have it be used within that subroutine. In other words, you have set a new version of the delivery charge variable, and its scope is limited to the special delivery subroutine. In other words, the local variable overrides the global variable. If I try to run this routine, I press F5, the order total is 419, which is this value, the active cells value, plus 37 instead of 20, and the number of deliveries is 3. So in other words, it called the delivery count subroutine again, and because I have all deliveries set as a static variable, it incremented by 1 as I tell it to do in the code. Static variables help you calculate accumulated values, such as finding the total loading fees charged during a day until the workbook is closed. Constants, on the other hand, help you define a variable's value once in a code module so you can use it throughout your workbook without needing to define it in each subroutine. If you ever want to change the value, you can do it in one place and move on with your life.